Great. Well, once again, welcome. Given that it's time, I'm going to thank everyone for coming. Look forward to hearing your comments today. We're very happy to have Elizabeth Mesa from from the West Coast, going to be talking about sense of belonging. So I'll pass things over to Elizabeth, let you explain a little bit about your background and take it from there.
Great. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us on what I hope is a beautiful Friday afternoon for you. I'm in Seattle and it's a gorgeous day today. I'm Elizabeth Meza. I'm from the University of Washington. But before I was at the University of Washington for many years, I was a community college faculty member and administrator at a couple of different colleges here in Washington. And now I do a lot of work studying community colleges and community college students, particularly in STEM transfer programs and also in community college bachelor's degree programs. That's kind of my other strand of research. But what I hope we can kind of discuss today and have kind of a more informal discussion around is around community college STEM sense of belonging. I hope you all read the materials, but if you didn't, I'm gonna go over them anyway, a little bit just to kind of refresh your memory. So I'm gonna go ahead and jump in. I'll do a few slides and then circle back to you all to kind of get some reactions and we can do some introductions. Um, okay, let me see if I can get this going. Oh, now all of a sudden, oh, there we go. Okay. I'm having trouble navigating this new, I got a new release of Microsoft PowerPoint and I like having trouble navigating the PowerPoint slides with Zoom. But hopefully y'all can see that. Um, cool. I'm Elizabeth, as I said. I have done this presentation before with Renuka Prabhakar, who's at Everett Community College, and some of the research that I'm going to be sharing here today is from that college. So at CCSN, we did three case studies where we dug into three different colleges, and Everett was one of them. And they have a Track 2 grant. Renuka isn't here today, but um, I'll try and do my best to represent her. So let's see. But now, there we go. Okay. So why sense of belonging? Well, you've all probably been hearing a lot about sense of belonging lately. It's kind of a new thing, something that everyone's kind of talking about now. And it emerged. So we did, as part of the CCSN, we did a systematic literature review of community college STEM programs. So we looked at, well, what's out there regarding these types of programs, and most of what we saw was in ASCE conference papers. So within a lot of those, and a couple journal articles and things like that too. But mostly it was that conference that was well represented. And sense of belonging emerged as kind of a theme among those papers. Most of them were descriptive, and they were kind of saying, what that college had done in their STEM program, and creating sense of belonging was one of the things that the colleges had tried to do. It also emerged as a case study at Everett Community College. And we held a session with STEM leaders at the PI conference in Chicago. Maybe some of you were there a couple of years ago, and it emerged as a theme there too. So we asked, we held a session where we asked PIs, and specifically community college PIs, what were some of the effective strategies in their grants? Um, and so they identified cures, undergraduate research experiences, internships, REUs, also research experiences, faculty, professional development on active learning and undergraduate research. So that was a big theme. Um, community partnerships, administrative support. So one thing that we heard a lot about was how community college PIs uh, felt under-resourced in some cases by the administration at their colleges. But when they did find that there was good administrative support, that was effective for them. So community building in the classroom and first year experiences, I think this is kind of where that sense of belonging has come in, as well as mentoring with prior community college students, faculty mentoring, and career development. So those were kind of the things we heard about there. So I would love to, if you all, we only have 14 participants, and I think some of them are the people on our team. So I hope that it would be okay with you all. Um, and if you don't want to share your screen, that's fine. But if you would just have a chance to kind of introduce yourselves, what college you're from, and why you were interested in attending this session. So Kathy is who I see on my screen first. So Kathy, would you mind going first?
Sure. My name is Kathy Bell, and I'm from Salt Lake Community College, and I'm a co-PI on STEM grant. And I was just interested in learning more about some of the evidence-based research that's out there since I'm a new PI and just wanted to learn more about what works for our students. So,
Well, thank you, Kathy.
mm,
Does anyone else want to volunteer, or I'll start calling on people? I use I still teach a class, so I'm perfectly happy to do that. Carlos, you look like
Sure.
you're volunteering.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So professor of mathematics in Connecticut, we just combined. So wow, this community college of Connecticut, the Naugatuck Valley campus. And yeah, the sense of belonging is something that, yes, as you mentioned, a buzz phrase the past maybe 3+ years. I've been a co-PI for at least four, and we've been struggling in this department as far as what goes on relating to people and seeing where their track is going to go.
All right, thanks. Ambakai, did I say that correctly?
Yes.
Oh, great.
So I'm Ambika Gajan, and so I teach at Henry Ford College in Dearborn, Michigan. So I kind of joined this because earlier in the winter semester, I was kind of doing this role as a bio coach, specifically targeting the introductory biology classes that I teach. So the whole idea was to have like a mentor who these students can come to. So not just tutoring help, but also any other support, and felt like, getting through that first step of taking a first science class, taking their first big biology class is always kind of a challenge, and getting through that hurdle helps with like retention and success and then them continuing. So this was kind of interest to how to improve success rates for students. So trying to find new ideas.
Cool. Thank you. That's great. Anybody else want to jump in? How about Mohammed? Come on. No? You're all gonna just keep your screens up. Okay, I can't, I'm not sure. H. Barrett turned off their microphones. So I feel like that was a volunteer.
Yes, my name is Heather
Yes.
Barrett. I'm with Carlos. I'm at Naugatuck
Oh,
Valley campus in Connecticut. And this was my first year participating in the Envision program. And I just wanted to learn as much as possible about everything to do with it. And that's why I'm here.
awesome. Thanks. And how about Philomene? Did I say that right?
Yes, you did.
Philomene?
Yes, you did. Yes, I'm Philomena. I am from Henry Ford College, Dearborn, Michigan. I teach biology, and I'm particularly interested to your presentation today because 2 or 3 years ago, I found myself with a student. We drop from the classroom because she was rejected from her team, class team in the laboratory. the team member did not actually did not want to interact with her. So she truly dropped from the class because of that. So I guess I would like to know what you can do when you find yourself with a situation like that. So I'm
Hmm.
here for that. I'm here for
Okay.
love.
All right, thank you. How about Pete?
Yeah, I'm Pete Bransness from Klamath Community College in Oregon. I'm the computer engineering technology department head. Yeah, so I'm a first year PI, first time PI, well, first year PI in an STEM grant. And I want to learn as much about research. So I'm coming to these presentations and I'm learning a lot from them. We have an idea like how we want to do ours, but I'm getting really good insight into and how other people are doing the research, which has been really helpful. And I'm really interested in this topic because in community college, this is a big deal, right? So I'm interested to see what you have to say on this.
Cool, thank you. And I also see Nagam. Is that how I say it?
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Naham. I teach biology at Henry College. Sorry, I'm interested in your presentation. I would like to know more about how we can help our students. At Henry Ford, we have students coming from everywhere with different challenges. So I'm interested to know how we can help students promoting more sense of belonging at Henry Ford.
Cool. All right. Well, if anyone else wants to jump in, I definitely welcome that, but I'll let the rest of you listen and we'll just keep going. All right, so quick definition of sense of belonging. So most people use a researcher named Strayhorn to define this. And Strayhorn's written a lot and kind of has the definition has like evolved slightly over the years with every kind of new edition of the book. But basically, students perceive social support on campus, a feeling or sensation of connectedness, and the experience of mattering or feeling cared about, accepted, respected, valued by, and important to the campus community or others on campus, such as faculty, staff, and peers. So sense of belonging has some overlap with STEM identity. That's kind of another one that is, those are kind of, I would say, the two like, big, the two kind of theoretical foundations that a lot of people are using now. Maybe along with self-efficacy is kind of another one. Um, I think the difference between sense of belonging and STEM identity is kind of the external validation factor, perhaps, right? So, sense of belonging is really how well is the student feeling like they fit in the environment that they're in, where STEM identity has a little bit more to do with do they feel like a STEM person? Do they feel like others see them as a STEM person? That kind of thing. So I don't know if that makes a lot of sense, but there is overlap there between the two of them. Um, okay. There we go. Okay, so that was kind of a big overview definition. And then there's been a lot of researchers along the way who've kind of tried to dig in and say, well, what does that really mean? How does that happen? And so there's kind of, they've, you know, different researchers have said, well, belonging, particularly in community colleges, really happens in the classroom, right? Because we don't have at four-year institutions like football games necessarily for students to go to, or, a lot of kind of the external extracurricular activities. Most of the community college students' interaction with the college really does happen in the classroom with the faculty there. So that's really what we should be concentrating on when we think about community college students. Disciplinary belonging is that's kind of that STEM identity, similar to that, which I spoke about. So do you feel like you belong within STEM? Like, is that your home? Practical belonging is kind of an interesting one too, and I think also important for community college students. That's really can I actually do this at this college? And a lot like when I try and find a parking space and get to my class, can I do that? Am I practically able to belong here? Do I have childcare? Is there really, an ability for me to get my financial aid on time? All of those kinds of things that create like, can I really do this at this college? Transfer oriented belonging. A lot of this is the work of Julie Wang. And I think this is kind of interesting to think about in terms of sense of belonging, because what Wang says is that great if you have sense of belonging at your community college, but you also need to have that promoted at the transfer institution, right? And so students who don't feel like they know how to transfer and that there's going to be a fit there and that they're going to find a sense of belonging at that transfer institution might be able to finish a community college STEM degree, but then won't really be successful after that. So it's important to bridge that gap between the community college and the transfer institution. And then cultural belonging is really coming out of the work of YOSO, if you've heard of community cultural wealth. And so that's kind of a sense of that my culture and that my lived experience is valued at the school, within the classroom, but also at the institution at large. Do I feel like my culture is being respected, is being and is valued in terms of like not, I think that it's kind of like the opposite of a deficit model, right? Like that I feel like I have assets to bring to the table. So there's a lot of work that goes into all of those, and that's kind of just a um, brief overview. The piece that you all read for today, which was also just kind of a brief overview, but does have a little bit more information on all those topics than what I just went over. Um, so why is sense of belonging important? Well, basically, sense of belonging is kind of the what we think of as maybe a mediator in terms of retention and persistence, right? So if a student feels a sense of belonging, then they will be retained, persist, and be successful in their degrees. So it's kind of hard to measure because it's hard to measure what is that thing in that black box that gets us to retention and persistence. Um, so in community colleges, though, what has kind of emerged in the research is that it's this sense of belonging is more important at the course, major, or professional level than at the general institutional level, which is not necessarily the case in four-year institutions, but because of the nature of the community college and that a student is really connecting with the college at that level, that's where sense of belonging really seems to matter for community college students. And there's also some evidence that STEM domain specific belonging. So, for example, if I feel like I belong in the biology program or in the computer science program, that seems to significantly predict students' 1-year persistence and intentions to persist to degree completion. So there's some research to back this up, is what I'm trying to say. Um, how do we increase students' sense of belonging? These are kind of strategies that have been identified in the literature as being important. So informal and formal peer networks. So formal peer networks might be something like learning communities, and informal might be something as informal as like a study group that's formed. Um, Classroom climate and pedagogical approaches. So something weird happened with the spacing on my slide here. Apologies about that. Active learning, equity-minded teaching practices, the perception that students have that their instructor is supportive, peer interactions. So, I think somebody mentioned a negative peer interaction that might negatively affect sense of belonging and students' ability to persist. A faculty member's ability to have culturally responsive teaching practices. And then finally, mentoring is kind of another strategy that's emerged as important for a sense of belonging. And in particular, there's been some work that if STEM professionals are of the same gender and ethnicity, that might be important for successful mentoring relationships. Um, so I'll give you a few examples of how I have seen this play out in practice in some of the colleges that we've worked at. But I'd love to hear from any of you. What have you seen? What is your STEM program or college doing? And have any of these strategies been, do you have some practical examples of how you've used these and whether they've seemed to have worked for students or not? Does anyone want to chime in with an idea here? You can raise your hand or just turn off your mic and start talking. Fadia? Yeah, and Kathy? Okay, I see both of you. How about let's do Fadia first. Did I say that right?
Correct. Yeah, perfect,
Okay,
actually. You've been
great.
good with these. Even my coworkers at Handy Ford, I was impressed when you were
Good.
saying them.
I taught community college for a long time.
Yeah. I was like, must have heard these names.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm a chemistry instructor at Handy Ford as well, and I am interested in the sense of belonging. Obviously, as a minority myself, I had those feelings when I started studying a while back when I did my PhD. So I went through the experience, and now my students mostly are minorities. They go through it, and I found active learning to be actually a big one. Obviously, mentoring worked, but we do need funding, so that's something that is in the middle of how much mentoring can go without being compensated. But active learning is good for students that we have a lot now of that English is not their first language. It just gives them the whole pause. They find their voice in a group rather than being talked at. It gives them that processing time. And sometimes language barrier is actually why a student would feel they don't belong, not really the lack of science background or foundation. So a lot of these strategies that you mentioned, they actually work. Like you can see the students feeling like they belong better, they can interact better in the classroom. I can sense that they can ask questions. I do make them present to their work, and it helps. In the beginning, there's that pushback. Help. So I do agree on these strategies that you have mentioned.
Great, thanks. Kathy, did you want to talk too?
Sure. In my community college, we do a lot of active learning, just like Fadia said, in all of our classes. So that really helps a lot with our student population. And then we also have a lot of very active clubs as well. And we do a lot of undergraduate research through our clubs. And so for our STEM students, we've actually formed an undergraduate research club just for them. And this is a way that we get them involved with their faculty mentors and get them working on research projects through the club. And also it brings them together in a kind of a social situation as well through the club environment. So that's been very helpful as well. So a lot of students feel a sense of belonging by going to the club events and going to the club meetings, and also, being club officers as well. So
Thanks. That sounds like a good. One thing I've been thinking about a lot lately is that some of the kinds of practices that are and somebody else mentioned this, that are here for increasing belonging are often only are available to students who are in some sort of special population, right? They're in an STEM grant or MESA or TRIO or something like that. And I've been thinking a lot lately about, well, what if you're not in one of those groups? Like, how do we reach those students who are just not really that either interested or eligible or whatever it is, like, or just have like really complex lives, right? And so like maybe they just can't attend some of that kind of stuff. Um, but it sounds like maybe clubs are a way to kind of um, draw some people in who maybe wouldn't be included otherwise.
Yeah.
And I'm also sensitive to the idea that, a lot of like undergraduate research and some of these things does take funding. I think somebody mentioned like, oh, we would love to do mentoring, but that takes some money, right? And
Mhm.
so kind of trying to think about what are some things that we can do that aren't high cost, I guess, and high
Yeah.
faculty. You know, I mean, you all are very busy people, so like, are there things that can happen that aren't quite
Yeah, we
so time intensive?
we also do a lot of cures in our labs.
Hmm.
And so that also you know, gives all of our STEM students that exposure to doing research. So if they're not in a club, at least they get that exposure. And then we also have research conferences twice a year. So people that are in those classes that have done, these undergraduate research projects in the classes, they have the opportunity to present a poster at the research conference. So, so we do grab people in that way too. And then they might end up joining one of the clubs as well. So,
Awesome. Thanks. Mohammed, I see your hand up. Sorry.
Yeah, actually, I agree with the idea for the student research. We are here in New Jersey. It's a community college, UCNJ, and we have this experience with the student research was very successful. But back to your question, how the last like couple of semester, we start a new strategy for making the students making interdisciplinary project, not just like biology. We try to match, but let's say biology with computer science and kind of bioinformatics knowledge. Trying to match sometimes the STEM with the business and a student doing some kind of research under the STEM business collaboration. This increase actually the students' motivation, and I believe it also helps students, even they are not like participating a lot for other activity or other sessions, but they helping each other because this like increase the wide the area and the circle for more students to engage. And from our experience, like it works more better than like just like the students stick with the only one major doing the same thing for many times, like two, three times participating in the student research. But I have to highlight the student research very, very effective in the student belonging, in the retention rate, the graduation rate. And also one more point, quick point, we have one grant before, and we have reconstruct and rebuild the courses to serve as a project learning project, like the teaching project during the semester. And with the kind of chemistry, biology, and computer science, engineering, the research became part of the project learning strategy. Thank you.
Okay, great. Um, I'm gonna get in. I'm gonna ask a couple more questions in a second here. Um, but I want to tell you a little bit about Everett Community College and see if this kind of resonates with you at your colleges. So, Everett Community College is a kind of a mid-sized institution in a suburb of Seattle. And this is a track two grant. So they had one previously where they kind of did like a bridge program to get students into the STEM disciplines. So in this one, what they decided to do was to do kind of a whole bunch of activities that they felt like students needed after that bridge, right? So they assigned each student a faculty mentor who is a subject matter expert in their field and a member of the grant leadership team. So they've got like 30 students and they have like four kind of grant people, and each one of them got a particular student to mentor. They did quarterly field trips and social activities. Some of them were academic, like visiting potential transfer institutions, and others were more social, like just going bowling. And some were career related, like going to tour a part, like they went to tour Boeing, for example, which is really near that college. Um, they had students with hooked up with either peer or career mentors. So students who were in their first year were hooked up with a second or further on student as a peer mentor, and students who were a little bit further on in the program got career mentors who could be most of them were people who were already out in industry. Some were former Everett Community College students. Some were just, kind of people who volunteered. Um, then they also delivered enhanced academic support in STEM gateway courses. This was some of you might have MESA programs at your college, and you might be familiar with something called academic excellence workshops. And what it is basically kind of an enhanced tutoring program focused on a particular class. So let's say Chemistry 161 is a tough one to pass, a hard class that really is kind of a gatekeeper class for a lot of majors. And so they had a student who had done really well in Chemistry 161 attend one of the chem courses, and then that student kind of almost like a session you might, I forget what they call those things in graduate school, where you have like the teaching assistant afterward like teaches kind of it was kind of like that. And they have these extra then sessions led by a student to kind of provide tutoring specific to that particular course. And they infused equity in the classroom with some training for faculty. Now, some of these things worked and some of these things didn't really work. And one of the kind of interesting pieces of this is that they didn't like sense of belonging wasn't really a theoretical underpinning of their grant, right? They didn't really have much of a theoretical underpinning for their grant and didn't really have like a theory of change or kind of a logic model. What happened is that, a lot of the faculty members who had been involved in track one kind of came together and said, these are the things we think are going to be important. And like one faculty member was really into doing the field trips, and another faculty member said, I really want to do professional development for faculty around equity. And another faculty member said, well, I think that the mentoring is really important. And so they kind of had this kitchen sink model of STEM grant development, which is pretty common from what I've seen. And as they've moved through the grant, now they realize actually, you know what? Sense of belonging is what we really want to focus on. And so, because we feel like that's actually the key to like keeping students engaged and involved. And so, some of the things on this list that are not really so much about sense of belonging have diminished in their importance in the grant, and other things that are more sense of belonging have kind of risen to the top of the things that they spend time on. I wonder from you all if you feel like this is a kind of something that resonates with you as you listen to this story, and if you feel like in your grant or in your kind of in your mind anyway, if you're not part of an STEM grant, is there kind of a theoretical underpinning for your work that you feel like is important, is the thing that you would point to? Anybody want to take on that question? Should I just start calling on people? Well, again, Kathy is the first one on my screen. So Kathy, and I know you have an STEM grant. So tell me a
Yeah.
little bit about, like, did that resonate with you? Or do you feel like, no, our grant actually did like have like a thing and that's what we're working toward?
No, I mean we've applied for another STEM grant. We submitted it this past March, um and in that process of um writing our proposal, um we were looking at how things had shifted with this previous grant, and how we wanted things to go with the next grant. And it was really interesting because things really shifted with our previous grant, and things we thought, oh, this is really going to work great, and that ended up not working. And we really shifted towards, let's um, do things that really make our students have that sense of belonging. And
Mm-hmm.
so we shifted towards the let's get them involved in this club, to get them, involved in the research and create that sense of belonging that way. Um, and kind of have that as our focus. So yeah, so that really resonated with me. So
Good.
yeah. Because before we were doing it
Yeah.
as a class, and that wasn't as successful. So yeah.
So before you had like a STEM 101 class or a
No,
credit class or
it was a research proposal writing class, and the
okay.
students absolutely hated it.
Oh, okay.
And it just did not work out as what we thought it was going to be. And
Yeah.
so having it more relaxed club environment, this is working
Hmm.
much better. So,
Hmm.
and there's not as much resistance.
That's good.
So, yeah.
So what has worked at them for Everett? So they have a like a STEM 101 class, which is just one credit. And even though that's for everybody, it's not just students in STEM, but that does seem to kind of create like a bit of at least the students get to know each other, right? And then that then combined with this these kind of quarterly field trips, and they do some other kind of social events where they'll have pizza and stuff like that, right? So the students kind of get to know each other a little bit through and then they're like, oh, I saw you were in my STEM 101 class. Like, oh, you're an STEM student too, whatever. And so what's happened is the students have kind of formed more natural study groups in that way, and along with the peer mentoring as well. So that those academic excellence workshops that I mentioned, that's really been the thing that they've struggled to keep going because, and it's actually kind of a good thing, right? Because the students are finding a, that they don't really need that because they have a study group now of other students who they know, and they don't really need to go to the academic excellence workshops. So that's been one thing that they've decreased attention on in this grant. Um, and one thing I think they're still working on and still are kind of thinking about and kind of we're now kind of thinking about a new grant around is this infusion of equity into the classroom training for faculty. They just have not had the pickup among faculty that they really hoped for in that effort. And it's kind of unclear why exactly, but that has been one thing that they're kind of still struggling to figure out. Everything else is going pretty well, and in particular, I think that two things: assigning each student a faculty mentor, and then really trying to create a community among the students with some of the events. And they've got a Discord channel as well, and apparently all young people use Discord. I didn't even know what that was, but the students are quite active on their Discord channel. Um, and then I think another thing that has helped is they made a big deal out of going to the student conferences, right? So STEM has those the conferences that students can go to. And the students who've gotten to go to those have been really enthusiastic, and that's really increased their STEM identity, but also their sense of belonging. So those have been kind of some successful strategies that they've used. Um, I'm going to move on. I kind of talked a little bit about this. So um, sense of belonging was emerging as the grant was being implemented. And students and faculty were converging around the importance of a sense of belonging and STEM identity as an organizing and unifying theme to guide program activities and supports. So now they often will ask themselves in other settings, like, well, how does this help sense of belonging? Like, how will this help sense of belonging? And it's just kind of helped as being something that will cut through some of the other, there's a lot of things that you could do at a community college, right? There's always a new idea. There's always something to spend your time on. There's always like a competing priority. And kind of organizing around sense of belonging has helped them to sort of like, okay, well, let's try this. This does seem to fit in sense of belonging versus some other things. Um, yeah, well, comprehensive support programs, oh, they call it eSTEM. They call their STEM program an eSTEM. Requires substantial resources and coordination. Even partial implementation and modest programs can yield meaningful benefits. So the faculty members were often kind of beating themselves up, like, oh, we're not doing enough. Oh, only 10 students attended that field trip, or even less, and oh gosh, only 4 people showed up at the dinner and things like that. And when you talk, so I did a lot of student interviews, and when you talked with the students were like, oh, that field trip was amazing and it was so great. And, the faculty felt bad that only 10 showed up, but for the 10 that were there, it was wonderful. And even for the ones who couldn't go, like even just being invited and being given the opportunity to attend increased their sense of belonging, right? So they would say things like, oh, I really wish I could have gone on that Boeing field trip and I couldn't go, but I'm making time next time, and I've got my schedule. I asked them when the next one was, and I'm gonna make time for that. And everyone said that was great, right? And then that gave them the ones who didn't go, like something to talk about with the ones who did go, and like created that community in that way. So I think even, I think there is um, a tendency to kind of be for faculty to be really hard on themselves when things aren't, in their minds as successful as they would like them to be. But I think this, that like even modest success is success for many students. Um, so key elements of the program, the faculty mentoring, the peer communities, and the financial support work synergistically to enhance student outcomes. Um, These components can be incorporated even in resource limited contexts to create a support system that addresses both academic and social needs. The faculty mentoring really became important, emerged as important, especially within that transfer space. I mean, as you all know, STEM transfer is very complicated and can be really hard to decipher. So the faculty mentoring was really helpful for students in getting the right classes and making sure that they were on track and all that kind of thing. So some things worked well, other things didn't really work as planned. So I'd love to hear if there's anyone else who kind of has something to share around something that they felt was really successful for increasing sense of belonging, and especially like if you have a really granular kind of a strategy that you feel like this is a small thing, but everyone should do it. I'd love to hear more about that. Does anyone have anything that they think has been really instrumental? And if not, I have one example. Carlos.
Yeah, I actually just wanted to kind of thank you for what you mentioned a few moments ago, because so much of the stuff that has been on the past two slides has resonated a lot. I just didn't know how to articulate it. When you mentioned the Discord, I know myself as a faculty member, I was a little uncomfortable trying to use something other than email to contact students. And we've had cohorts in the past where I don't know if there's any evidence-based research on it, so I'm not directly answering the question you just asked yet. But if one cohort may have been better than another one because you had more extroverts versus introverts in it. Because I know I can't say, oh, like all those things, the different types of field trips, those have been implemented, and it's like, hey, wasn't this great or wasn't that cool? And asking students fine to use a QR code instead of pencil, paper, whatever it is. But there has been much there that did resonate in that regard. But it's like I almost want to say, hey, it's required that we do this, but I can't do that. It's like we just strongly encourage that you take part in this. Like we've had a successful, I guess if you're going to use drones are more the term quadcopter, and trying to have the students do a research project on that. Like that's been kind of the big thing lately. But and to be able to take them to that STEM wow, research center and just be able to a conference and say, hey, guess what we presented on this? So taking them to those events and saying, hey, what coolness was this? And not to talk about it more so a downside, but I know like with some of the students, it's like, oh, they might finish an associate's degree or instead decide to do the certificate and trying to kind of strongly encourage, hey, can we kind of push it toward that going for the bachelor's level and still keeping in touch with what's at hand. Um, but yeah, I guess kind of sorry to come up there with a question, but if any of this research was also getting at just, I guess, the makeups of those cohorts, I guess we had a little bit more success when we noticed that there were some more extroverted students kind of gluing the team together.
Yeah. No, I mean that makes a lot of sense. One thing I'll say about the kind of we can't require things. I think that's yes, STEM you can't like technically, make something mandatory, right? But I think I've seen it for more of this at four-year institutions where they say to students, hey, we're going to compensate. We're going to compensate you, and the scholarship is actually like I don't know, like when we were all, when you all went to grad school, I assume most of you, and there were like fellowships, right? And you got the fellowship, but it was like you weren't like required, but it was really expected to do some stuff, right? Um, so what I've seen other colleges do is say, we are expecting you to be in this community, and we are compensating you to be part of this community, and it's a scholarship, but it's our model is it's a compensated community model, is what I've seen other people call it. And at Everett, they actually ended up having students who received the scholarship sign a contract saying, and never use the words like you're required, but it just said these are the expectations for being an eSTEM scholar. And they had kind of all of those kinds of things laid out. Now, of course, you do have to be flexible at community colleges with students' time, but to the extent that they kind of laid out some of the expectations that they had for students, that did help to kind of make it seem to students, a scholarship can be just you get the scholarship, right? So they kind of said, yes, it's a scholarship, but here's what we expect in return for the scholarship. Um, so um, I don't know. Yes, you can't make something mandatory, right? You can't take their money away if they don't show up, but you can heavily uh, tell them, we heavily expect you to do these things. Um, let's see, I had one other thought on that. I think I covered it all. Anybody else have any thoughts on that?
So I had a quick observation.
Yeah, Sean.
This whole idea that the sense of belonging is really being recognized as the key framework for all this. I'm really encouraged about this, and it occurs to me that I'm at a four-year institution, but a big thing at my institution is sports. we're not like nobody's going to become a professional athlete, or it's very rare. But the sports teams really provide that sense of belonging
Yeah.
for the students to be in a community besides just part of the general population. And so what I'm seeing here is like the STEM disciplines have sort of their own analog to that.
Yeah.
And I think Elizabeth's done a really good job kind of pointing that out. And then to your comment, Carlos, I wish I could have as much influence as the coaches do, getting people to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and go to the weight room and have two practices a day. You know, if I give like too many homework problems, they're complaining. But the idea when they feel like they're on the team, they're getting up at 5 in the morning to go to the weight room because it's like the team thing to do. Um, so, you know, maybe we can borrow a little bit of the coercion tactics, or maybe coercion isn't the right word, influence that the coaches have on their team members.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, all right. I did want to share one other an example from a different college, because I think this is one that is kind of low, relatively low effort, but seems to have yielded some good results for them. There's a different STEM program that I am working with at the College of Lake County in Illinois, and they have a makerspace on their campus. And what they started to do is just hold open study halls at a particular time in that makerspace, and just announcing it in the classrooms, and it's staffed by a faculty member. So like, they just have kind of a rotating schedule where the faculty member agrees to go do their work in the makerspace. And students can just drop in and get questions for whatever class answered. It's kind of like alternative to the tutoring center almost, but staffed by a faculty member, right? And after, some advertising and some students kind of talking it up a little bit and sort of saying they have really good attendance in these kind of open study hall spaces, and have been able to start recruiting for the STEM program just by using that space as a space for like, oh, maybe you'd be interested in getting an STEM, because sometimes it can be difficult to, recruit students even to apply for the program. So that's just another, kind of example of a lower touch, uh, relatively easy to implement. And maybe your college doesn't have a makerspace, but maybe it has some other kind of STEM space, that could be, you know, used. So, any other ideas, um, or thoughts before we wrap up? And then I'll kind of share one last thought. Okay. Well, one thing that I'm thinking of a lot now is around the sense of belonging, and like it, and how do we kind of make it so that it's not such a person environment fit model, right? So we do want students to feel a sense of belonging. But I'm also thinking a lot about how to make that sense of belonging durable and transferable, so that when they leave for their four-year institution, if they're going to transfer, or even out into the workforce, how do they still keep that sense of belonging around STEM, and like that they really do fit there if they don't have, uh, you know, sympathetic faculty members and active learning strategies and things that are happening. So, anybody who's got any ideas around that, please reach out. I'd love to kind of talk about that. We're, thinking about new grants and new opportunities um, for ourselves. So I think we've kind of gone through most of these. I think I've kind of been trying to infuse these questions throughout, but this is kind of the questions that, I hope that you are kind of thinking about throughout the presentation. Get over here again. Okay, so there's the CCSN code, which I think most of you are in the CCSN if you're at this research to practice clinic. But also, Michelle or Melissa, do you have the eval? Okay, Melissa just dropped the evaluation in the chat over there. So if you all could go ahead and do that. John, do you have any final thoughts or announcements or anything you want to make?
No, just thank everyone. Thanks for participating, and we're looking forward to a new series next year. Make sure you let us know if you have any suggestions for topics or improvements for next year. I want to thank everyone for your participation and look forward to continuing working with you all through the CCSN. And thanks very much, Elizabeth.
Yeah, thank you. You know what? I'm just going to drop my email address in the chat really quick. I should have had it on a slide. I apologize about that. But if you want to talk more or have any thoughts, please feel free to reach out. And we're gonna all be, I think, at the meeting in DC this year, right? In October, or I'm gonna be. John, are you gonna be there?
I don't think I'll make it this year. Yeah.
Oh, too bad. Well, if you have a chance to go, any of you, it is a really great and fun meeting, and so fun to see all the students and their enthusiasm. That's like now that I don't work at a community college anymore, that's my favorite part. So anyway, hope to see you there, and I'd love to chat more with any of you if you are going to be there. That'd be fun. So, okay, thanks.